How do you accelerate your analysis? From those in the ivory tower to those in the front lines, we need to use our analytical skills to plan and be productive. Not too long ago, all the analysis work was done by a tight team, all with like minds coming from the same place. Today, that's not the case. Today, we have people coming from different schools of thought, different cultures, and different perspectives. We are no longer working in niche teams. We are working with globally diverse teams, and how we analyze reflects this. Rather than going in a straight line from A to Z, our analysis now are being more conversational, where everyone shares their position, where everyone gets their say. We are no longer having analysis paralysis. We have a new beast altogether. Cyclic analysis, where conversations cycle repetitively. And these cycles repeat because many of us do not have the tools to keep the conversation on track. Tools such as objectives, agendas, and action items are no longer enough. Today, with all this information, all this data, most of us are not prepared to structure analysis and fast track it for strategy, planning, and revenue growth. From A to Z, we must be productive with our analysis. The solution is straightforward. We all must work the same way in the group to do the analysis. I'm Chris Pahura, and welcome to my channel, Breaking Status Quo. We are all pre-programmed to do things in a certain way. That said, we can rely on the commonality in our programming to do our group analysis in parallel. And doing our analysis in parallel, we can exponentially fast-track our decision-making and company agility in the marketplace. The secret is not focusing on approaches, but focusing on small steps that we repeat over and over. Think of the assembly line for building cars. We focus on small repetitive tasks to build cars quickly. Just like with cars, using repetitive steps, we can build ideas quickly, becoming very good at developing successful ideas. With repetitive steps, we become really good at working with each other to get on the same page and march forward. Once we feel comfortable with how we're working with each other, fast-tracking and stellar analysis is the natural outcome. We are now in a diverse world with diverse schools of thought, bodies of knowledge, such as Babok and PMBOK, NLP, certifications, training in so many different areas, so many things, business modeling, data analysis, management consulting, data science, management science, artificial intelligence. We must rise above all these things and look at what they all have in common. What is the core, the narrative that flows through all these approaches and spawns creativity and rapid analysis? After all, we only have 4 problems we need to solve. Problems around customers, problems around things we do, problems around human capital, and how we align all these things together in our organizational structure. So what do we use to solve these problems? Our answer is the Shell pattern. Shell is a repetitive pattern that relies on our most fundamental analysis. What makes Shell different is rather than looking at one perspective at a time, such as strategy, management, consulting, or even politics, all perspectives are looked at frequently and systematically during our analysis sessions. Shell can be implemented with tacks and string, whiteboards, verbally or written down in detail or lightly on cards. But why hasn't the Shell pattern been noticed before? It hasn't been noticed because of our brain's wiring. We all tend to think a certain way. For instance, arts and humanities don't think like engineers, and vice versa. For us to be successful, we need to change this. The same fundamental skills for good analysis are the same skills used to write a good rhetoric essay. It's just the notation and steps from the high level are different. The level we look at things is different. The vocabulary is different. But when studying things much more closely, there really is no difference. What we need to do is all work from the same handbook. Shell helps with this. With Shell, we can remove the impediments to good analysis. Impediments like strongly positioned traditionalists that want to hijack our analysis, or methodologies that have major blind spots, or having us working at the wrong levels, or dealing with non-standardized business language. And best still, we don't need to customize the Shell pattern. We just choose the tools best for us and follow the pattern. Shell focuses on determining the foundational boundaries of a concept, the priorities of its parts, the gaps from the high and low levels, and the common business language we need to navigate culture and politics with. Then we systematically build on this foundation. With Shell, we create an assembly line analysis that promotes innovation, ease of automation, and even the readiness for establishing new things in our organization. New things like artificial intelligence. All is possible. Let's get started with Shell. Shell has 5 key perspectives when looking at concepts: spectrum, hierarchy, end-to-end, life cycle, and language. Spectrum. This is where we do a survey. We explore the boundaries of our concept. We identify pieces, areas, and connect them together. We focus on getting as many things down and see how we fit them together. Think of how a child plays with Lego. Examples of completed spectrums include strategy maps, Myers-Briggs, and Gartner Magic Quadrants. Hierarchy. This is where we break our concept down and assign priorities to the pieces and how these pieces' priorities are related to each other. Examples of completed hierarchies are rankings, brainstorming diagrams, and org charts. End-to-end. This is our end-to-end narrative. It sets the lowest level of detail we need to understand for our concept. This narrative includes our emotions, our passions, and the complete common thread through all perspectives we all have. This is storytelling. This is planning. This is scenario planning, all used to close the gaps in the weeds. Life cycle. This is our narrative at the highest level. It helps us articulate the concept from the high level, from the strategic level, and socialize the concept across the organization. This is the big picture for how we explain the concept. We use this to see the gaps from the high level. Examples are strategy documents, training materials, and roadmaps. Language. This is the tightening of the screws on our concept so we can inspire people, navigate culture, and cut through the politics. It involves smoothing our language so we have the best chance executing on the concept. We eliminate hot buttons. These are the perspectives for Shell. To fast-track our analysis, we must use these perspectives in a certain order. Here is the order we must follow. Following in this order, from going high to low to high, removes all the impediments, allowing for a complete and effective analysis to happen. It also prevents the psychological inertia, the blinders drill down effect, and those cyclic conversations. Now that's the theory. Let's walk through a simple application of the Shell pattern and how we use the pattern to reconcile all perspectives while doing our analysis. Let's talk about delivering mail. For the spectrum perspective, we have a mailman, and he delivers mail. Now there is this dog, and it loves to bite the mailman. The dog does this so it can eat the mail. We focus on getting nouns down quickly and give 1 or 2 word connections between our nouns. We don't focus on depth. We focus on connection. Now technically the dog isn't biting the mailman. Actually, it likes to bite on the mailman's uniform, the uniform the mailman is wearing. I chose to represent the spectrum in this way to show more things in the example, but we could have represented the spectrum in this way, using 4 quadrants. The layout and notation I use is just an example. It may not be the layout and notation you use when implementing the Shell pattern. Now we take our spectrum and create a base hierarchy driven by what's important. Mailman and dog are important. We move delivers mail into mailman. We move eats mail into dog. We move wears uniform into mailman. We move bites uniform into dog. We go back to spectrum to see if our analysis for hierarchy changed anything in spectrum. There were no changes. Moving to the end-to-end perspective, we write down the lowest level of how we explain our concept, looking for gaps at the lowest level. Mailman wears uniform. Mailman delivers mail. Dog bites uniform. Dog eats mail. Mailman delivers mail. We see a gap. Because the dog bit the mailman, mailman visits hospital. Mailman files insurance claim for his hospital visit. Mailman files uniform claim with the post office for being bit in the line of duty. Going back to hierarchy, we need to add a few things. We add the new things for mailman based on our end-to-end. Going back to Spectrum, we add files, insurance claim, and files, uniform claim, to make our Spectrum more complete. Now we're moving to Lifecycle. We need to explain from a high level what it means to deliver mail and how we communicate this to a wide audience. We talk about maintaining mail delivery, maintaining safety, and maintaining the uniform. Going back to end-to-end, we don't need to make any changes. Going back to hierarchy, we need to add another high priority block, mail delivery. Going back to Spectrum, we don't need to change anything. Now we move to language. This is where we adjust the language so it makes our concept more solid and easier to accept. Let's change mailman to mail carrier. Let's change dog to pet to apply to all pets, not just dog. Bite is a negative word, so let's change the seriousness of it to nip. And uniform is not the right word. Let's change that to image. Going back to Lifecycle, let's update the language. Let's go to end-to-end and update the language. Let's go to hierarchy and update the language. Let's add image to mail delivery. Continuing to update the language. Going back to Spectrum, we update the language and adds maintain image. We update the language further. Now that's it. We now have just completed a foundational concept using the shell pattern. We can explain this concept from various perspectives to enable successful socialization, training, and execution. Though the example was very graphical, we don't need to be graphical with shell. We can use sticky notes in string, we can be typing away in Word, we can verbally walk through things in the boardroom. We're going for analysis productivity, and the best way to do that is with the tools we feel the most comfortable with, the most productive with. Once we develop the concept foundation using shell, we can balance the perspectives, moving the more complex to other perspectives to simplify everything overall, making our concept much easier to understand and execute. When we focus this way, focusing on small repetitive steps, innovative concepts that already operate this way, innovative concepts such as repetitive algorithms, we ready the organization and our culture for data science, big data, and artificial intelligence. We can have all the standardization, all the right people, all the right strategies, but our success all rides on how all the common little things we all do to work together. How do you fast-track analysis? How do you ensure successful execution? How do you do your training? Let's continue the conversation. Give me a call at area code 1-226-984-8102 or shoot me an email at cp@csuitedata.com. Thanks for listening.